everybody. We're doing a sound check right now. Can somebody let me know if you're hearing and seeing everything? Because it's kind of important.
Doing something.
Okay, David, you hear and see? P-Man, do you hear and see us? And yeah, we're going to answer your question. That's why I'm asking whether you can hear us. Okay?
In case you're wondering, I look so disreputable because this is the way it looks when we come back from the field, which we just did.
Excuse me, I got to check on something.
Okay.
What do you call that?
What?
Our gas detector thingy.
I don't know. I'm not that impressed.
Okay.
You could go back several years in the...
Hi, D. Hanlon.
Okay, so can you hear us, I presume?
I'm assuming that P-Man can hear us. They haven't gotten back to us yet. P-Man, when it comes to rock sampling, hammers,
Okay. Let me explain it, okay? The biggest problem that most people have with rock sampling is they think the way you sample the rock is you take a hammer and swing it at the rock and bust off a sample. It has a couple problems. Number one, hitting it precisely right, very difficult to do. Two, the impact speed is so high, it tends to throw chips and stuff around. The hammer bounces off. It's hard to control. And you can only deliver so much energy with a rock hammer. Now, I'm presuming you're going to be using a hard rock hammer, which has the point instead of the chisel edge. In a case like that, you can use the hard rock hammer, but a 2-pound hammer to 2 or 3 pound hammer behind it, smacking it in, is a lot more controllable. Another thing you can use is a chisel, a hammer and chisel. Very good control, and as an added benefit, the chisel itself hits the rock at such a slow speed, you don't get near as much stuff just flying off.
Hi, Mr. Virtue.
Okay, so for control and precision and power, the key is use either your hard rock hammer, like a chisel, and just use the handle to hold it in place, or take an actual chisel. Either one, whack it with a 2 or 3 pound hand hammer. You're going to find out it's vastly more effective. Now, if you got really hard rock, neither one of those is going to be real effective, and you wind up going into the demolition hammers, electric demolition hammers and stuff like that, Sierra blasters, drill a little hole, put in a little gas injector charge. It's not an explosive charge, okay?
Now, we have had good luck with our little mini Hilti for small things.
The mini Hilti works okay, but I can use a hammer and chisel, a 2-pound hammer and chisel, and anything that mini Hilti can handle, I can usually do it with that too. Okay? There's stuff that mini Hilti won't. There's stuff that a hand hammer just bounces off of. Good hard bull quartz. Yeah, it's not terribly effective. Then you wind up with either big demolition hammers or drill holes and pop it, things like that. But yeah, the whole idea of swinging a hard rock hammer at a hard rock, now that's the amateur way of going about it. That's one of those things that the pros can tell how good you are. You notice, like in geology upskill, he's always using the flat end of his geologist hammer to break the rocks. He's not really using the pointy end to attack it. Okay? So, let's say, that works well. A chisel or your hard rock hammer backed up by a stronger mallet. so to speak. And that will give you a lot more effectiveness. You can take a chisel, set it in a crack, and drive it in and wedge stuff open. Yeah, try and hit that crack right with your hammer. Good luck. What was the other question on there?
The other question was, what gas detector do we recommend?
I really don't know. The one I got, it got out of calibration after sitting around for a little over a year. So I'm not highly recommending it. You can find them on Amazon and stuff.
Brian, the one and only working eye, the one that he had to get Dremel tooled because he's a yo-yo, is still seeing double to triple. So things are not going well.
Yeah. Anyhow, so you're going to want to be able to determine oxygen level. You're going to be looking for poisonous gas, generally hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, things like carbon monoxide comes from combustion. Hydrogen sulfide is usually from you got decomposing sulfides, but the most common one underground is going to be lack of oxygen. It's also pretty insidious. Hydrogen sulfide, you can smell that stuff. And sulfur dioxide, same thing. Carbon monoxide, it's not detectable, but you're not going to generally run into it unless something's been burning there some time. And Eva's looking on Amazon right now.
Yeah, I believe it was the forensics oxygen detector is one of the ones that we looked at.
We got it right here.
We're getting it out right now so we can see the name on it.
The problem is it needs to be recalibrated.
Yeah.
I haven't got around to it.
Voice type multifunctional gas detector user's manual. Let me see if it actually has a name on it.
I don't know.
I'm not seeing a name on it.
I don't either. I think it's generic. It was about $100. Maybe in the back panel there. Say anything?
Voice type gas detector.
Yeah.
That's all it says. They have one that looks like this that is on Amazon that's like $159, but it actually has a name brand on it.
Yeah. So it worked for a while. It's not working now. It seems to be trying to function, but it's completely out of calibration. So theoretically, it can be calibrated. Anything there?
No, no dynamite, old school. They lose the matches, okay?
Okay.
I will let you know if something comes up.
Okay.
The things from me were me trying to type and hitting the stupid
I
return
can
key
see
on your
yours.
freaking computer.
But anyhow,
I hate this keyboard.
yeah, I'm not a big fan either. I wish it had.
Anyhow, tell them about our weekend.
I wish everything was easier to read, like bigger, lighter lines. Anyhow, so last week we spent time fighting the mill. The engine on the Bob mill finally bit the dust. It was expected. First of all, it's a Predator. What do you expect? Long term, it's not a Honda. So it bit the dust, but also, and this is something I would like a little help with, I'll probably ask later too, but the hard facing that we're using it's a new brand. It's, I think, Hard Alloy 140. I think I was using Studi 21 and ran out of it, went to the local distributor, and the guy said, here's, this is what everyone uses here. And I don't think it's doing that well, Hard Alloy 140. So I'm looking for a really good quality impact abrasion, extreme duty type hard facing. if anyone knows any or just has some recommendations, something that's worked real well with them, I'd appreciate it. I think this stuff is maybe half as durable as the Studi was. So that's kind of frustrating because it means your maintenance time is doubled. We can't even get around 700-800 pounds through the mill, and we're already wearing through the hard facing on the apex wear plates. Okay, and that seems to me we used to do a lot more than that.
Ablative steel. Ablative steel, Brian Smith says.
Well, is that a hard facing or is that somebody's alloy? Because I'd like anything we put in there is going to wear through, so it's nice to be able to reapply. That's the advantage of hard facing. AR 500, nah. Yeah, that wears through pretty quick too. So, I don't know. I think he typed something else in there a little bit.
Yeah. The stuff they use on snowplows, he says.
That would probably be about as good as anything you can get. But how do you cut it and machine it? I presume you could use a plasma cutter on it.
At the bottom of the blades, he said.
Yeah, the cutting edges. Yeah. Greater blades, stuff like that. Really, this mill is designed for something, quarter inch, no more than about a half an inch thick. And I don't know how thick your snowplow blade. I know greater blades are a lot thicker than that. So I'm not sure. I say AR 500 is not going to stand up too long. But
well, what I find interesting is we actually built them up to heavier than they had been the last time we did it.
yeah,
And you said yourself, you double checked my work. It was nice and thick in the places it needed to
no,
be.
I agree. That's why I say I don't think this hard facing is as hard as the Studi 21.
I tend to agree with you because we're also getting a whole lot more tramp iron in the sluice stuff.
Yeah, I say so. I'm thinking that
Could
I
be
need to
harder
do a
boards,
little
too.
research to see what's the toughest hard facing out there in a standard stick electrode. I don't have the capability to apply anything else. So that's pretty interesting. That's one of our big issues. I am also going to try putting a smaller drive wheel pulley on the impact mill compared to, not the drive pulley, the driven pulley. They use the same 6-inch pulley on the engine, but go to a 4-inch pulley on the thing, so I get a much higher tip speed, and see how that affects productivity and wear rates and stuff. Dave Vanderwall was saying he was getting some pretty high throughputs through his impact mill, but he's running at like 5,000 RPM. I'm doing 1,500. So if I jump it up to, what'll that be? About 1.5 times, so 2,000, 2,200, somewhere around there. The change is going to change certain parameters, the change in speed. We'll see how it changes the parameters.
Brian says, would some case hardened chain work?
Not for very long. That's the problem. This quartz will grind through it. It's like taking a grinding wheel to something. It'll get through it. Sometimes, you can take a grinding wheel to hard facing and reshape it. It's kind of slow, but it does work. And one of the problems is it's not just hardness, it's impact resistance. Many things that are very hard, like diamonds, are not impact resistant. You can shatter them real easily. As a matter of fact, an interesting story, when they were first making atomic force microscopes, what they need is a tip that's as close to a single atom point as possible out of a diamond tip. And before they actually fabricated, when they were experimenting with it and stuff, what they did was they just literally went to the jewelry store, bought some old diamonds, and then smashed them with a hammer, and then had, a doctoral student sort through them with tweezers, and then they try one and see what the quality image was until they got a good quality image. But so in the extremely violent situation we're in, I'm using an impact abrasion hard face. Now they make pure abrasion hard faces, and I don't know, again, hopefully there's a welder out there, whether or not it can take the level of impact that is in the mill, or whether they're talking about things like when you got a 30-ton grader that hits a rock and the rock doesn't move, that sort of thing. I really don't know. But a pure abrasion hard face would be used for things like plows, for agricultural equipment, things like that. And it is harder, but it is more subject to chipping. So, I kind of played it safe. I might be able to do better with a pure abrasion, but I suspect in this case it's going to chip. So, I say right now we don't have any of the real fabricators on, I don't think. But I'd say I'll be asking later too. And if we don't have, we're trying to get 1,500 pounds per batch. And if we could do a nice steady 200 pounds an hour, which we have measured on that machine before pretty easily, if we could keep that consistently 200 pounds an hour or more, we're only talking 3.5 hours of actual operating time. The RC46 can easily jaw crush a lot more than that. So that's not the bottleneck. The bottleneck is the impact mill.
Sounds like some experimenting with blades is in order.
Oh, there's all kinds of things. Unfortunately, here in Montana, we have a situation where you're either in production season or you're in water is a frozen solid season. Yeah, which makes it kind of hard to test stuff. But anyhow, we're testing various things to try and increase the productivity and to minimize the maintenance per ton on the impact mill. And I mean, last Friday, oh man, that engine was just having so much of a problem pushing that rotor that productivity was maybe 100 pounds an hour, something like that. It was just ridiculous. But so we'll have a new engine on it in a day or so. I presume they have them over at Harbor Freight right now. It's a Predator 212. And that pulley is supposed to be in tomorrow at Helena Farm and Ranch. So we should be able to, and then oh, I forgot to measure shaft to shaft distance.
Oh no.
Oh. Let's see. I think I wrote down somewhere what the old belt was, and you could use two 6-inch pulleys to calculate from that back calculate shaft distance, and then change to a 4-inch pulley.
Oh, I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Difference in circumference between a 4-inch pulley and a 6-inch pulley would be pi d. D in this case would go from 2 to 3. So it'd be about a 3-inch shorter belt. So if I can find where I wrote down what the belt length was, then I should be able to go like 3 inches shorter and make it work. But yeah, getting that mill running is tomorrow's job. New engine, etc.
Well, that's a new and interesting.
And another thing with reference to the mill, the latest stuff we've been running through the mill has done a couple of things that we have attributed to the ore, but it may not be the ore. And that is, there's less gold overall, and it is much more biased in the coarse gold. What?
Brian says, my ozone experiment seems to be destroying my black sand concentrate.
But are you getting the gold out of it?
Yeah, is this a good destruction or a bad destruction? There's the question.
I mean, dissolving everything is fine. If you dissolve what you want, you get rid of what you don't. But anyhow, so the presumption was the ore had changed, but it's possible that one of the parameters in the mill somehow has changed unbeknownst to us. So I reset the original mat configuration, and I double-checked level and things like that. And I'm going to start panning heads and tails to get an idea.
Brian says he doesn't know yet. Dave Vanderwall, hi Dave, says quickest way to measure for a belt is set up without the belt and wrap a steel tape measure around the pulleys.
Well, yeah, but that would assume that I'm 8 miles and 30 minutes from here to do such thing. I could have done that. Actually, I could have just taken a steel tape measure and measured the shaft to shaft distance, and then I could have. It's easy. They make calculators. What size pulley here? What size pulley there? What's shaft to shaft distance? It'll tell you the size of the belt. But I forgot, and I had plenty of time today.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to blame it on senility and my right parietal lesion. It's not my fault at all.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
Keep thinking those happy thoughts, dude.
so I say it's a minor technical issue. If nothing else, we'll get everything installed tomorrow, with the exception of the belt, and then we'll, go ahead and get it running the first thing next day. As I was saying,
Ozone on my black sand cons is just a pre-treatment before leaching.
yeah. So you're probably making iron hydroxide or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyhow, the way it works is if it takes us 3 days of milling to get us a full tank, then it takes us 3 days in the field to do our basic field work, which, like it did this weekend. Right away, you can see the week is getting awfully short. So if there's any doctor's appointments, maintenance and repair items, going to the grocery store, doing laundry, anything like that, it immediately creates a bind where something's got to give some. Last week, we just simply didn't completely fill the tank. We were short a bit. On the other hand, if we can get that mill going, it makes it relatively doable. It's still, we're not going to get any days off, so to speak, but yeah, we can make it happen. In terms of field work this week, on Saturday, again, we're not getting, to our knowledge, good grade for the mill. Now, again, that may be because the sluice is messed up, so we're double checking that. But assuming, and it was also, we went and hand panned some stuff too, and it looked like the grade had gone downhill. But anyhow, so assuming that we don't have any good grade at this point, I'm going to take a look at this thing here.
I'll be right there, guys.
Not a problem, Dave. I think we got a warranty on this one anyhow. It's kind of silly how cheap the warranties are in these Predator engines. We may just changed the procedure to where at the end of each season we just take it in and get a new one and put it on the shelf.
I'm coming.
Oh yeah,
Good grief.
those Hondas are quiet. They're durable too. There's no comparison in quality between a Honda and a Predator.
Oh yeah, Hondas
There's
are
no comparison in price either.
Hondas are amazing.
You know, Hondas are 2 to 3 times the price. They last 2 to 3 times to 5 times or more as long.
Brian, by the way,
They're
said that using the ozone as a pre-treatment means
Yep.
his leaching's done cooler and faster.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they're definitely better engines. No doubt about it. In the long run, they might be a cheaper engine if you maintain them properly and stuff. You know, keep a clean air filter and keep changing. You know, one thing I'm doing on this Honda that we've got on the RC46 is the air filter is a paper filter with a foam pre-cleaner. If you take that foam pre-cleaner off and coat it with motorcycle foam air cleaner oil stuff that makes that foam real sticky, yeah, it doesn't much. It gets a lot dirtier a lot quicker, and the paper stays cleaner a lot longer. So that's a definite improvement. Coat that foam with oil and then wash it out with an approved organic solvent according to the EPA, whatever that might be. But anyhow, so we went out this weekend, and we got a late start because we were trying to get that tank filled up on Friday morning. Didn't work out. So anyhow, we got up on top of the hill on Friday evening, got camp set up, went to bed, and then Saturday was primarily exploration stuff, which a significant amount is confidential, so I can't really go in much detail.
Dave says he just figured he'd offer because he doesn't need it either until spring. Well, thank you very much for the
I
offer.
appreciate it, Dave. By the way, what size cupels are those you wanted to give us? Eva's starting to run out here. You know what diameter they are, or what the number is, or whatever?
Or just the weight in grams of one that
Or
hasn't
weight
been used.
in grams and one that hasn't been used.
Because I know exactly how much mine weighs.
But anyhow, so and I say it's we checked a number of things that were on our list to check, and didn't find anything.
Whoa! Gold Wizards, look at you!
Hey,
All our motor mixer engines are Hondas. We have crates of Honda engines with no mixer attached anymore. The engines last forever, but the mixers don't.
I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either. Hondas are freaking amazing. If it was in the budget, we'd have one.
Cement mixing is not the dustiest of applications, and if you just change the oil on a regular basis, yeah, Honda gonna last a long time.
Wow.
They are good engines. But anyhow, so
Show off those crystals. So
I'm getting to that.
So if Jason has to take off for some reason, he can see them. Hi, Shane.
Anyhow, Eva wants you to see these things, Jason. Let's see. This is one of the crystal clusters we found this weekend from the dozer dump out there at top of the hill.
And this is an interesting thing.
And this one was a rock that I smacked, just thinking it was right. We were trying to see what was in it.
Lower it down a little bit.
As you
There
can
we
see,
go.
there's some pretty serious quartz crystals there.
And they're all cemented together, and it was inside another rock.
Now, if that's
Look
calcite
at the back.
cementing, then we can just dissolve that and get the...
I didn't even have to dissolve it. I put it here for you to show off. a broken crystal came off that when I was scrubbing it very lightly with a soft plastic bristle brush. But that, I mean, those crystals came off an ancient crystal garden. It takes a long time to grow them that big. And somehow or another, they got taken out of their original matrix, and there they were. Yeah, I know, Flower Gold Wizards. I was looking at that, and I was like, damn, now I feel bad because I gave Mrs. Wizards the prettiest ones I had at the time, and now I'm finding even prettier ones. So I'm going to have to mail you some.
Now, if you take a look at those two crystals there, you'll notice that the bases are considerably larger than the continuation of the crystals. I'm not exactly sure what is happening there. Clearly, the conditions of crystallization changed, but that's kind of an unusual thing. And since Rock Butcher's not here and Chris Georgie's not here, I don't know if anyone has any idea on that one.
Yeah, I've been finding some nice crystal clusters, I'll tell you that.
We found some very nice crystal clusters this weekend when we were tearing apart the dozer dump. Now, if you go to the photos on Snapshot.
Dave says 1.5 inch, 60 grams, 79 of them. That would be amazing, Dave. Those would be great.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say not as much brecciated as cemented. What looks like is going on there with that big guy is something happened to disrupt an ancient crystal garden, and then the pieces got cemented back together under a light pressure, not even enough pressure to cause a hard cementation, and then a rock grew around it, because when he busticated the rock open, on the outside, it looked like an ordinary rock.
It looked like a rock.
On the inside, it looked like that.
Yeah, it was
figure.
quite surprising. Those are the biggest quartz crystals we've seen out there. Absolutely.
I would love to see the garden those came from. I really would.
Now, Eva's going to call up a picture here that'll show you basically, was it? It wasn't this one, was it? It was a different one.
It was a different one, I believe. Right now, I've got to find the pictures.
Yeah, it's down there at the bottom of Snapshot. One is the dump, and the other one is, I think, a road. Oh no, the other one is the.
Yeah, the other one's the one
trees.
that I used for a freaking thingy thumbnail. Okay, so I'm gonna get this showing for you so that you can see. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the video camera
No,
resolution.
that it's because you somehow managed to mess up the screen.
I don't know. Anyhow, that is the working face. We're taking a slice off the bottom of this dozer dump. Now, as you can see, towards the bottom, there's these large rocks. Virtually all of those
Right
are
in there.
big belt sedimentaries, siltstone, sandstone, stuff like mainly siltstones and mudstones. But then on top, there's a pretty thick, 6 to 10 inch layer of what appears to be some sort of soil with organic, lots of roots, things like that.
I call it the biomat.
Yeah.
And by the way, the thing on the left-hand side is my hand holding up a quartz crystal.
Quartz crystals that we just grabbed. Okay? But she just plucked it out. It'll be on a video later this week, hopefully tomorrow. But anyhow, so the question is...
Oh, it's not. It's definitely not a geode, Brian. It's not constructed like a geode in the least.
Yeah.
Shane, yeah, it is freaking gorgeous. It is crazy. And
Yeah.
Dave says when he gets back from the Flower Gold Wizards outing next week, I bring them up to you, probably next Monday or Tuesday. Thank you very much, Dave. I would seriously appreciate it. And by the way, you can go shopping through my large crystal collection and grab some for the family if you'd like.
Anyhow, so this appears to be a dozer dump. It was scraped and pushed and dumped there. However, how did the fine stuff get on top of the coarse stuff? Typically, a dozer is going to be cutting from top to bottom, pushing it off. So you'd think the fine stuff would be on the bottom, and then the coarse stuff would be on top. As he gets deeper into the cut section, he's going to get more bedrock. Is it possible that maybe he was taking a big chunk and then backed up and scraped some more stuff off? I don't know. But at the bottom layer of the organic mat, all that root stuff, is where we tend to find all the almost all of the crystal clusters and a lot of the quartz. And it's quite strange. We have found crystal clusters down deeper into the mass, but they seem to be more up there in that biomass or right on the, it almost looks like there's a crystal cluster just
right here is the one I'm holding in my
right
hand.
there. Yeah, right there. Almost looks
Right
like
in
one
here.
there. Yeah.
When you look at this picture, and I am the one who took this dump apart so far, inevitably I find all kinds of crystal clusters inside that biomat, where the biomat contacts the dump itself.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to figure out, Mr. Virtue, because what this looks like, okay, this is my dump, what I call a dozer push, a disturbed area. It looks like, according to the dude here, it looks like somebody came in and was using a bulldozer to scrape off the dirt and scrape and try to get down to bedrock to look at things.
To get into the bedrock some
And get
too.
into the bedrock some too. So the way this dozer push looked, the way this dump looked when we encountered it, around the bottom leading edge, there were very large boulders. Some of these boulders are a couple of 100 pounds. And then inside the dump itself was all kinds of broken up post rock and broken up smaller quartz going anywhere from, the size of the crystal he was holding in his hand up to, 10, 15 pounds maybe. Then over the whole thing, over the period of a century or so, dirt built up. And the dirt got a lot of moss and some trees and etc. Well, as I started deconstructing this dump, we discovered that basically the big quartz is inside the dump or in those boulders along the leading edge of the dump. Like it rolled down, and because it was the biggest, heaviest rocks, they kept going instead of stopping because they're rolling down a hill. And then the middle so far seems to be primarily country rock, primarily our host rock. But what we're trying to figure out now, Lars, he does need a shave. What we're trying to figure out now is why is it that in that biomat area, which is basically about the size, see you later, flower gold wizards. That biomat tends to be about 12 to 18 inches deep at most.
I didn't see any of those 18 inches.
That
I'd
is
say
at
more like
most.
8 to 12.
But the funny thing is, right where the biomat meets the rock is where I'm finding the concentrations of quartz crystals and where I'm finding the sugar quartz that's been skeletonized because the moss absolutely loves that quartz. And I think what's going on actually when it comes to the crystals, because the crystals drop out basically in the shape that you saw that in.
Well, it'll be interesting to take this and put some acid on that and see what that is. Because I would agree that the quartz that is,
Well, show that off again now that Lars is here. I can tell you this, I think it's clay.
I think that the adjunct minerals to the quartz, the roots
Get it down
like,
in the picture, dude.
oh, well, I can't see. See, I'm looking straight ahead.
Don't ever
Okay.
look straight ahead.
That's exactly. That's why you say don't look over there.
Shane says, is there a chance you guys have had maybe an earthquake in the last 100 years that shook dirt down over the top and kind of layered it? Well,
No, there's no dirt above it.
yeah, there's no dirt above it. This is sitting on top of a hill. Now, I think it is possible that maybe seismic disturbances or the disturbance of the dozer itself, the vibration of heavy equipment, might have caused the host rock to kind of settle itself in place because
Well,
the host rock has a tendency to want to settle itself.
I understand, but the fine stuff tends to settle through the gaps in the
Yeah.
in the big
The
chunk.
fine stuff should be on the bottom.
Yeah, the fine stuff shouldn't be in a thick layer on the top like that, and that's pretty peculiar.
Yeah, Lars, it is beyond a nice conglomerate. The only way to describe this is when we first saw it, it looked on the surface like an ordinary quartz rock. He was busting it up to put it in the bucket. When he hit it and it opened up, that's what it looked like inside. And those are by far the largest crystals that we have found. I don't know why the crystal garden was deconstructed and cemented together like that, but it was.
Well, the situation we're dealing with is we've gone to this stuff and we've sorted rocks according to a variety of criteria. For example, the host rock itself, the big belt sedimentaries, have no real significant gold. Okay, now they might be high enough for an open pit heap leach, but we're talking way less than is interesting to us. The quartz, on the other hand, some of it ran like, half an ounce or something. And so we were, wow, this is great because we can just pile this stuff up. But then when we were having trouble achieving the kind of recoveries that we'd seen initially, we started running it by different type. And this stuff is basically good solid quartz. This you can see has more other stuff in it. There's things that she calls it sugar quartz, but it's more heavily mineralized quartz with other stuff in it that gets eaten out by roots and stuff like that. And the quartz itself tends to be real fine-grained polycrystalline sort of stuff. Pretty soft, easy to crush, bugs in it like that. Not cubic bugs, just holes and gaps.
For those who like geology words, it's saccharoidal quartz.
Yeah. And then we have some fairly massive quartz, and then we have stuff that looks like massive quartz, but it actually has these
It's calcite.
large calcite crystals in it too. This stuff didn't run worth a crap. Okay? The broken host rock with veins of quartz in it, it didn't run too well either. Okay? So now we're being more selective to getting what she calls the shugs or sugar quartz and the more massive quartz, and we're just throwing the other stuff. We're segregating it, but we're setting it off to the side in case it becomes valuable in the future. But that's what we're doing. We're taking apart this dump and sorting all the rocks as we go. And Eva and I were able to get, well, let's see, what did we get? About 40 pounds per bucket, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got about 1,600 pounds of rock. of quartz in a day's work. And and during that process, we were also able to get a bunch of crystal clusters.
Shane says, well, if that crystal stuff is held together by clay, gold's attracted to clay, and maybe the clay conglomerate has gold in it. Good chance maybe you guys crushed some that earlier and didn't notice it. And yeah, Shane, that's one of the problems we're having right now is we do have, when we say it doesn't run well, Jeff, we mean it didn't have much gold.
Yeah.
Shane, one of the problems we are having now, I have been side-eyeing the clay landing on our pad since we started working with this ore because the test results we are getting from the lab on the chemical analysis on the liquids are not matching up with my spot tests, etc. Stanley McFalls, the Southern comedian, says, "What's up, friends?" Well, if you've got any good Southern jokes, I'd love to hear them. Hi, Shaggy. Cheers, cheers.
As you can take a look at my face, back from a trip, I'm pretty comical too.
Chris, wait until you see these crystals. Show them the crystals.
Well, first of all, size matters. Not sure what the matrix is, whether that's quartz or calcite.
I'm telling you, it's clay.
Okay, that is not clay.
You're chipping it off with your finger right now. Be careful.
It's breaking. The pieces, the clasps are not breaking. It's poorly cemented, but it's not clay. Okay? Then here, now, I'm wondering, Chris, if you can see those two close together there, see how they go from a larger crystal to a skinnier crystal at the top? Do you know what the mechanism is that causes that? Clearly something changed in the process. I haven't done it yet. We just got back.
I have not done the acid test, Chris, but I will tell you this about it. Earlier, I wanted to wash off some of the surface dirt very carefully. So I put it just under straight hot running water and very gently circular scrubbing with a... Chris says, howdy, everyone. And Shane says, crush some of that. I think it ain't going to hurt. And this old mine with Lars says bear poop. Okay? Now, please.
No, it doesn't work.
Anyway, I was very gently rubbing in a circular motion with an extremely soft plastic brush. And I broke off a small broken crystal, which was over here. He was supposed to show it, but he's not. Don't know why.
I know where it is.
It disappeared again.
Yeah, all I know is this stuff right here. I went in and I took a razor knife and started scouring the edge of this gently, and it stopped real quick. That ain't
It's
clay.
two different events, it looks like. The small crystals look like they started forming later, following the existing crystal structure. That
Okay.
was my thought on those as well, Chris. I call that guy the porcupine dude, by the way.
Yeah, my question, though, is do you have any idea what the different parameters of the two events were that one would make a wider crystal and the other would make skinnier ones like that? Is it maybe faster deposition or something? I don't know. It's very unusual and pretty. Let me take a look also.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good-looking little dude.
Yeah,
I call him the
color and
porcupine dude.
transparency seems to be somewhat similar. Would you agree?
Somewhat. Bob Hawk says, mica? No.
No.
There's no mica in that guy.
No, there's no mica here.
I wish.
But anyhow, so again, this stuff is perplexing in that the finer material is on the surface. And that in and of itself isn't surprising. I mean, it's been sitting there for a while. Yeah, freeze thaw, weather, carbonic acid from rainwater, blah, blah, blah.
Chris says you'd have to see how it oriented in the VUG.
Okay. But anyhow, the thing is, why would the quartz clusters and massive quartz be preferentially at the bottom of the fine layer and top of the other? So
Yeah, why would they be trapped in the biomat?
why is it in that little zone there?
Brian, Yeah, I definitely agree with you that the concentrations of silica changed. And I think we also got, I think that maybe the speed at which the liquid was moving also changes. Because I have some of these crystals are an extremely regular shape. They're all pretty darn near clones of each other and the same level of transparency, the same level of glow to them.
That's it.
Shane says when you heat clay, it turns to ceramic.
Yeah.
And Mr. Virtue, where's the gold? Yonder.
Yeah.
Chris says, I think cause and effect is being reversed here. Well, all I can tell you at this point, Chris, is I had to educate him on how to remove the biomat because dude here was wanting to tear it down many cubic feet at a time, and I'm like, that's how you break the crystal clusters because that's where they're all living. I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't think I broke too many. I know one thing. I moved a lot of rock.
Yeah.
I say, I'm a beaver.
Chris says clay minerals are mostly decomposition products of other minerals. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. So I can understand them being finer soil on top of the dump. It's been around 100 years and definitely gets a lot of freeze thaw up there. But I have trouble understanding why the quartz would be concentrated in that layer. And what we'll probably do is on a subsequent trip, we will take a marked off section of material and take it down slice by slice and pile up all the quartz and crystal clusters in separate piles according to the slices to see whether or not the apparent observation is true or not, or whether it's due to some kind of non-conscious bias or whatever.
Well, I will tell you this. I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of crystal clusters that I found in non-dirt, in non-biomat areas of that dump. And they were all larger.
I don't know. I can't.
And Chris says if it was on top, it was likely among the last stuff removed from the ground mass. That's one of my theories, Chris. One of my theories is they may have accidentally broken into a crystal garden and never friggin' noticed it because they were too busy using a bulldozer to do who knows what.
I agree with you, but that would be quite serendipitous, so to speak. I would agree that would be the presumption.
Brian says crystals formed in a vug, then collapsed into a pile of crystals and host rock. Yeah. Hi, Red Wing. You haven't seen my cool crystals today yet. Tilt them upward so you get a good shot of all the porcupine. That's the porcupine dude.
And then for sheer size,
move back a little. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's saying hello to Red Wing. Don't worry.
Okay. So, I say that's one of the questions we're dealing with. Now, another mystery that we ran into up there, even noticed this particular phenomenon, and I'd seen it, but I hadn't paid close attention. Go ahead and get that other, the two other ones. We'll take a look at them one at a time.
Okay, I'm going to bring up another couple of pictures here.
I haven't had a chance to edit a video, but I got all the raw footage in there and then just took a couple snapshots. We didn't get back to the house till what? 3, 4, something like that? Good Lord.
The first one you're going to see is the screenshot that I used tonight on the live stream.
Okay. Now what you're doing is you're looking uphill from what we call M2 to M4, or close to it. M4 is actually just off to the left there. But if you take a look at that path through the trees, you'll notice something unusual. Number one, there's no stumps. Typically, if somebody removed trees on a path like that, say like for a power line, they wouldn't bother removing the stumps, especially in the old days. There's lots of places where there's stumps all over the damn place. That dead tree that's laying there is just next to what we call the road by M4, and as such, we'll show you another picture here shortly from that spot up. And you'll also notice you don't see much in the way of seedlings. You see plenty of seedlings in the foreground here, different saplings and stuff like that. But all you see up that whole path there is just ground cover. Now go ahead to the next one, little one.
Okay.
Now, the next one is from that road where that dead tree was laying. And if you look up, you can see that path goes straight up the hill. Same sort of thing, no stumps, no signs that trees used to be there, but it seems to bifurcate. There's also a path off to the right that takes off and it bifurcates and then goes almost parallel with a line of trees in the middle. Now, to me, that indicates there's probably something in the geology there that is not conducive to trees. Chemistry, maybe it's very well drained. I did a, what?
Chris says an old power line cut, and David says cleared trees. And Chris says, yes, they would remove stumps. When they put in power lines in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they'd make a clean cut if they could. Brian says perhaps an overhead tram line like a sky lift. And Chris says, check the old maps. I bet that went across to the major mines in the area.
I don't know.
Well, we certainly can look into it.
Yeah.
That's not the only place on this hill I have run into this. We were in another area and I was doing a walk. I was doing a survey on the ground and getting the location of every single man-made hole in a given area. And I happened to notice that the area was gridded out with lines of cleared area that was similar to this in a large grid.
Now, let us suppose they put a power line in there, okay? And you're saying they would have removed the stumps when they did that. When they removed the wires, would they typically remove the posts also? Or the power poles? Got some comments there. Can't see anything.
Shane says it definitely looks like an old road or a fire break, and David says something about going to build a flume.
No indications of a flume. There's no water up at the upper end there.
No, and by the way, James O'Keefe and his team were detained near the Canadian border by the Vermont State Police.
Yeah.
So.
Power line would theoretically make sense, although I'm not sure why it would lie like that. If you wanted to take another power line a different place, I think you would have a more, like 90-degree angle at an appropriate spot. Two power lines that close together, you could probably...
Chris says claim boundaries were often frequently cleared down to mineral earth.
Okay. That's possible.
Bob Hawk says rock rubble ravine moved by gravity. I think.
No, I don't think so. There's no.
Jeff Bybee says a fire break would be more likely to remove stumps. And Chris says they may have pulled poles or they may have burned later.
Now, there's no indications of any fires. Those big trees there, they were spontaneous after a fire that burned other stuff. You'd think it would be more over.
Brian says the old telegraph line at his place just has treated stumps left.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. It's a lot easier to just kill the stumps and leave them there than to get rid of them. And the soil itself, the rock underneath, is broken down big belt sedimentaries it looks almost like a gravel in terms of the particle sizes. I was wondering if it might have something to do with the water percolates too quickly through there, almost like a French drain. I have no clue. I say it's something. It definitely looks like a power line cut, with the exception of I would have expected them to leave the stumps. Although possibly in the old days they just used dynamite. It wasn't that hard. I don't know. It doesn't look wide enough for me to be a fire break, but I'm no expert on these things. Plane boundary, well, that would make sense.
Depending on the size of the grid, it would make excellent sense.
Yeah, I really have no idea. That's just an interesting observation that I don't know, so I get curious. What else we got?
That's all you've got right now.
Okay.
Now, the other interesting thing about this picture that I'm going to put up again here is if you take a look, you can see this little pine tree, this one young pine that's up here,
Yeah.
is actually sitting in a divot,
Yep.
like a human divot. If you take a look at behind him, you see a lip where everything below it has kind of slumped.
No, it's been dug out.
It was dug out. And that's the interesting part about this location, because it has the appearance that stuff was dug out. We found rail track. We found pipe, the kind that's used to pipe air into an underground mine. And they ain't no at it anywhere.
Well, presumably there's an adit somewhere, but it might take subsurface radar to find it nowadays.
Chris says, look at the PLSS special survey of the area, and yeah, it's a fir, not a pine. Okay, I know it's a fir, not a pine. And it's actually a good-looking fir, okay? As firs go, that's a good-looking fir. I will say, that's one thing I noticed when we were up at the place where Lauren's working last weekend. The trees up there are the healthiest, happiest, fattest dang trees I have seen around here. They love the mineralization in that mine site.
Yeah, they seem to like it. The another interesting thing that's noticeable to us is there's not a whole lot of blown down trees right there. There's a lot of blown down trees in this general area, but that looks pretty good there. So, say that was an interesting thing. M2, we're trying
Chris says he's bringing up Google Earth, Google Dirt. Let's see if anything lines up. Have fun with that.
But we have a name for this mine that the picture's being taken from. So hopefully this winter we can do some research and get some more information on it. But at the moment it's precious little, except I think 125 tons were shipped to the smelter and several hundred tons were processed locally, quote unquote. That's about it.
We did have a bottle of acid here. See if it disappeared again. Yeah.
It's in your backpack.
Yeah.
In bugs.
Oh well.
Yeah, it's sitting in your backpack.
I am halfway considering seeing if I can dissolve that conglomerate and liberate those crystals.
Well, it'd be easy enough to take it out to the range.
David Bia says, bird's eye view. Speaking of birds, we saw a plump grouse.
Yep.
I will say, you know, there are some fat birds up there.
Yep. The pine grouse up there are called fool hens because they don't like to fly away real quick at the slightest sign of people. So they'll tend to just go a few feet and sit there.
Shane says in the Flint Hills in Kansas near his ranch, they just take everything out, tree stump and all. It's all mowed down to the bedrock or limestone.
It is hard to tell when that was done, but most likely before the 30s, maybe before the 50s, but it's over half a century old. I can be pretty confident of that because that's when they started stopped doing it.
Chris wants to know, is that picture taken facing just west of due north?
Actually, it is it's close to due south.
Yeah, that's just east of due south. Or just west of due south.
Say the drainage is behind us going down to the road, the main road down there.
Chris says he sent us the info on the power line, I thought.
Well, I think there was something about something like that, too, on one of those maps somewhere.
Well, I will look for it later, Chris, because I have to try to keep an eye on the chat and everything. And
I think I saw a map at one time that actually might have had some power lines marked. That's a good point. I take it.
Chris says, okay, other side of the drainage. That's the one. Okay. Cool. We will look at it after.
Yeah.
After we get off the live stream, and I'm going to see if he can find the information on that map with other power lines, because that might explain the thing that I found elsewhere.
I don't know if that's the one we have.
Mr. Virtue, our state history museum / library is closed for the foreseeable future because they're building a new one. I have not yet been to the Lewis and Clark main library, but from all I've heard, it's pretty darn small. I am going to be getting library cards. And yeah, David, as if I didn't have enough to do, it's going to end up being more homework for me.
Well, we suspect that the Bureau of Mines in Butte may have some useful information on this area, and possibly the mine that I'm standing at right there. It was a patented claim at one time, which apparently the Forest Service bought back. And that may be why we can't find the adit. The Forest Service may have buried it. They may have smoothed off all those hillsides.
Shane says it looks about that wide, too. Yeah. I mean, the other ones I saw, the other ones that I noted that constituted a regular grid were about the same width.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to tell.
Chris says it looks like some old switchback haulage roads across the power line. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Several.
There are.
Yep, Mr. Virtue, we're going to be looking for microfiche records.
Yeah, there's.
Shane says it could be they were going to put it in and just never did.
I don't know. I mean, again, it's one of those things that searching for records means we can't mill and we can't do field work.
Well,
so it's kind of frustrating.
I would say that it would not surprise me to find out that when the Forest Service got their filthy little hands on some of this land again, it would not surprise me to find out that during that big survey back in the mid-'70s, when they got a hold of a lot of this crap, they may have gone in there. They're the kind of people that would pull up poles and smooth over the dang ground. I mean, we are now talking, they're now saying if they give you a permit to put a road in, you have to remove the entire thing when you're done with it, for some bizarre reason. And Brian says if you're finding rail, there is or was a portal there. Yep. And we found arrows, too.
Air line.
Yeah.
Steve.
Brian says look for wet spots to zero in on it. Chris says, is there a pond near the base of the hill, too?
I don't believe there's a pond there, but there are certainly some water-loving trees in the middle of the dump.
Yeah, in the middle of the dump, we got a bunch of birch trees. They're finding water somewhere. Joe Francois says, hello! I've been watching from Basement Show TV from the beginning, now on my tablet.
So there's lots of interesting stuff there. There's also, there's a mine close by that is currently not in operation. It's still owned. I mean, it's patented claim,
Brian says, aha.
and we may see if they want to maybe do anything with it. We could help out with and make some money or whatever. It's kind of hard to tell. What I really want to do is find out exactly what form the mineable zones were in this area. Were they just little pockets of quartz? Was it something else? Whatever it was, what were they oriented? How were they oriented? What direction did they go?
Yeah, I mean, the only information we have on that is what we got on the Jay Gould.
Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
know.
I say, we have some stuff in the general area that has some details, but we got to do a lot more research.
Chris says somewhere in the immediate vicinity is a fault offsetting one of the major structures, according to the reports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Brian, those trees are, Chris says broken rock. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I think it's just shattered rock that, the water just percolates so fast, trees can't get a grip on it. So it's like if you had gravel, nothing grows in gravel. But I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look at too much of your reports.
Chris says it wasn't traditional vein in place as he understands it, I believe, IIUC.
Yeah.
GeoBum says, new to the channel, what's your backstory? When did you get into mining full time? Geologist from Michigan and love your content. Geologist! Hey, speaking of geologies, speaking of geology, show you my beauties.
Okay. These were some crystal clusters we found this weekend. I know I'm trying to see when you have it on that screen instead of this one, it told me not to look at that screen. It takes me a little bit. But anyhow, these are quartz crystals, and I don't know if you can see, but the upper parts of the crystals are smaller in diameter than the bases. There's a sudden change in crystal size.
And a change in crystal color.
Do you have any idea
white.
what change in conditions causes that kind of a change in crystal formation? Just curious. And while you're thinking about that, I'll give you my backstory. Back in 1977, I think, I was working retail, minimum wage. I got my girlfriend pregnant, needed to make more money. My mom had a co-worker whose son was working at a uranium mine in Church Rock, New Mexico. I lived in Yuma at the time. So he said, yeah, should be able to get a job up here without too much trouble. I went up there. It took me 6 weeks to get hired on. I spent 1.5 years working underground uranium. And then if you look in the history books around 1979, I think it was, United Nuclear Corporation Church Rock Uranium Mine and Mill had a tailings pond failure, which caused a whole bunch of problems. But one of the things that it did do is they decreased the workforce, and I was one of the people decreased. So I went back to Yuma, and my stepfather pointed out to me in the help wanted section of the newspaper that there was a thing, heavy equipment operator rock driller wanted, something to that effect. And he said, there's not a lot of those around here. It's a farming community. So I applied, and I was one of the first set of hires at the Kim Gold Picacho mine. And what was I? Maybe I was I the first hire? I don't think so. I think me and Ramito and I forget the other guy's name were hired first. Randy got hired shortly after that because they needed a truck driver.
Chris says a void was filled with mineralized fluids, deposited the first set of crystals, then either dried out or changed chemistry, and had a second pulse of fluids depositing the secondary crystals. By the way, the crystals, the clear part on top is oriented to the same orientation as the white part on the bottom, if anybody's curious.
Do you have any, I would agree with that. Do you have any idea what specific changes in the solutions or temperatures or pressures or anything would have caused that type of change in crystal gold? Just curious here. By the way, this also has some gold in it. Not much, but
Show them the other one too.
in commercial tonnages, it would definitely be profitable. And then here's some big crystals, quartz crystals, that we found this weekend too. So anyhow, after I worked at the Chemical Picacho mine for 5 years, every time they had a management change, it got worse and worse to the point where, within a year and a half after I left, the mine general foreman, the mine general manager, were standing there. My brother happened to be there because he needed information or whatever. He was the shift foreman. And the mine inspector told the mine general manager, you have a decision to make. You can either fire this guy here, who is the giant mine general foreman, or I can have him hauled off in handcuffs. You have 10 seconds.
Chris says crystals will preferentially grow on the existing lattice.
Yeah. I say, the fact that it's a different speed, I wonder if that's more ions in solution, lower concentrations, a different temperature, just as a curious. But anyhow, so I had figured out that, yeah, things were going to get kind of wonky. And so when when Goldfields opened up the Mesquite mine, about 60 miles away, I applied there, got hired on. And then, within a short time, found out that I was not going to make it to management there. It was a big company. They wanted people with pieces of paper, stuff like that. You couldn't even be a shift foreman without a degree.
Chris says drop in temperature, reduction of silica dioxide, change in pressures. Many can cause formations to cease. To resume, you just need a new source of hot solution bearing silicon dioxide.
Okay.
Jeff Bybee says it seems a strange choice.
Choice to leave ChemGold for Goldfields. I figured I was going to move up. It didn't work out that way. Then my back got worn out running heavy equipment, and so then I went into selling dust control chemicals for a bit. Then I got into kettle corn, and I sold kettle corn for over 2 decades. And I spent spare time prospecting and such. I've had, 10, 11 articles published in the California Mining Journal. We did a segment on Dave Turin's Backyard Gold this summer. I mean, not a segment, just a piece of a segment. Where it says Montana Hard Rock Heaven. We got about 10 minutes in there with my beloved wife here. She does more of the lab work. I do more of the muscle work because, lab work requires OCD. Muscle work requires small brain, strong back. And I'm 68 years old. I've also...
Jeff says no fired or arrested, huh?
Oh, no. I've been in jail one time. That was in Mexico. We'd had a car accident. The car was mine. And the police placed me in a holding cell in a little dinky town in the middle of nowhere, about 30 miles from the U.S. border, until my parents could come down and pick me up, because my car was not drivable at the time. And the Mexican hitchhiker that was riding in the back of the pickup truck was no longer breathing. He didn't survive. So it was a fairly serious thing, but I was not driving.
Secret Creek Prospecting says hello, everyone. Hi, Secret
Hey,
Creek.
Secret Creek. I have survived kidney cancer, a stroke, aortic aneurysm, miscellaneous other less significant health issues. The latest one being,
Jeff says not you, the mine foreman.
oh, probably failed up again. I know the
People fail up all the time.
the giant mine general manager is now the head of a big mining company. You would recognize the name. The guy is not very good at all, in my opinion. But that's the way it happens sometimes. It's more how I think he was the one who told my brother never stay at a place more than 18 months. That way your mistakes never have a chance to catch up with you. I would have a different philosophy. It's like, I'll be happy to stay there because I don't expect too many mistakes. Such is life. So anyhow, I hope that was a good synopsis. Oh, new viewer person. Okay, someone else did. The reason right now that I am having to have my wife tell me what's going on.
GeoBum says, this geologist loves the backstory. Thanks so much for sharing.
You're welcome, GeoBum. The reason I have to have her read it is because, 3-4 weeks ago,
Yeah.
I got a little teeny piece of steel in my right eye, right in the middle of the cornea, and they were able to remove it and kind of buff out the rust stain and a few other little things. But currently my vision is not very good, and they're waiting for it to stabilize before they decide what to do to try and improve things.
And by the way, GeoBum, I'm planning to take some really good pictures of some of the other really cool specimens that I picked up while we were helping a buddy at a copper project this week. So they'll be up next week.
Last week.
Yeah, last week. Every week it's the same these days. Chris says promotion to the highest level of incompetence. Yep, kind of like the Peter principle or something. I'm not entirely sure,
Actually, this is even worse than that, but yeah. I say it's pretty hilarious.
Oh, look what Brian's doing.
Yeah, I know. So, anyhow, that's kind of it. I'm blessed with a wife who likes to dig in the ground and do lab work and go out in the field and camp. It was kind of cold Friday night.
Know if the different shapes in that one will show, but that one's gorgeous.
He just says, let's try showing this one here. Say, that dozer dump we're doing just had a bunch of these crystal clusters in it. But anyhow, there was this solid hydrogen monoxide coating everything in the morning when we woke up. Luckily, I had fixed the heater the week before. The heater hose had sprung a little bit of a leak, so I got all that fixed and everything. So we ran the heater probably ran almost 60 hours straight or something like that.
Shaggy says stay safe, Keith. And Mr. Virtue says you're so funny, Chris. Jean-Francois says a Harvard PhD in incompetence guarantees swift, unending promotions.
Yeah.
And yes, Mr. Virtue, that one is beautiful. I got one this weekend that when I've got him cleaned up, that dude is going to blow all y'all away. It is just the most gloriously exuberant dude that I have seen yet. You know, he's going to go get one of my larger ones. I love my crystals. And we can also show you the ones over here. Now this, I don't know if the colors will show really well, but this is a piece of post rock from a nearby copper project that's got azurite, malachite, all kinds of interesting things in it.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking some beautiful, beautiful stuff there because copper ore is just so colorful. And yeah, I hope they can correct his vision too, Shane. Life is a whole lot easier when he's not screeching.
Anyhow, so Here's just another one of the crystal clusters we got this weekend. Hadn't had a chance to clean it. And here's one of the larger ones.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there's the interface with the original host rock on the back. It's a crack. And this is one side of the crack. But
Jeff Bybee says, Eva, I thought you were talking about Keith cleaned up. No. That takes a little more effort than cleaning my crystals. Chris says, looking on Google Earth, that power line cut runs for many miles.
Could be. Yep. Anyhow, I will clean up easy, but I asked Steve, I said, should I get cleaned up real quick, or should we just show them what I look like when I come in from the field? She said, just go like that. So that's why I'm not.
I said go like that because I was trying to get 19,000 things done, and he was disturbing me.
We
We
didn't get home very soon before we started the live stream. We've been in the field for 3 days, and we went from the field to the mill.
And I had zillions of phone messages and.
So it's been an interesting little while. And to put it in kind of synopsis, we're learning more out at top of the hill. Still no breakthroughs. Still nothing highly profitable.
Still can't find an ore body.
And I don't know how much...
GeoBum says geologist approved. Oh, I cannot believe all of the crystal clusters I am finding. And these are in a dump, GeoBum. We're talking a dozer push here.
Yeah, it's not even a regular dump. It's just somebody took a divot out of the hill to see what the rock looked like, apparently. And this is just what got piled up in the process. Not a very big one, too. I'd say a couple 100 tons is all. Not much.
And I've been taking it apart piece by piece.
You know.
I am a dumpologist. Joel Francois says, how do you live in the field? Motel, friends, prospector tent? No, bugs.
We have a 76 Chevy pickup truck, 4x4, that has a custom-built camper that I built on it. It's heavily insulated. I built it out of 1.5-inch square tubing on 2-foot centers. It has an aluminum outside, not your real thin stuff that you find on most RVs or whatever, but like 050 aluminum on the outside, 1/4-inch paneling on the inside, and sandwiched between is 1.5-inch styrofoam insulation. Ceiling, walls, floor, everything has styrofoam.
And it's built on a utility bed, so one side holds spare car parts and the other side is a kitchen.
Yeah, they can't hear you too well from back there, little one.
Well, be sure to don't.
And I built it on a utility bed so that we have all kinds of storage and toolboxes and everything like that. With just me and Eva sleeping in there, if it's around 50 degrees, 45, 50 degrees outside, just the heat from our bodies is enough to keep it quite warm. I don't know if you know this, but each human being is about a 70-watt heating element. Okay, what do we got there?
Jean-Francois says, yeah, now I remember.
Yeah.
And Shane says, some things aren't easy to find in life. Keith, you haven't struck out. Look, you've got Eva. You just got to keep looking for the vein, like looking for the right woman.
I agree with you completely.
The difference is, he didn't go looking for me, Shane. I saw this poor, badly abused dude that was sitting there. Great husband material.
Who was looking for a job at the time?
Yeah, I was looking for a job, not a man.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We,
I see this excellent husband material just going to waste in the hands of an unappreciative person. And I'm like, well, we got to do something about that.
Yeah. Anyhow, so no, I'm very happy with how my life's going in general. It's frustrating at times, but I'm retired. I'm 68, so I'm on Social Security. which is enough for us to survive. And by being financially challenged, it makes the medical bills pretty simple.
Jean-Francois says you didn't find gold, but you found a gem. Well,
Got that right.
not everybody gets a goddess's favor, you know.
Yeah.
Mr. Virtue says knee slapping funny, and Brian says the job is filled. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, anyhow, I'm very happy with the vast majority of things.
Shane says, now look what I started. Yeah, what you started is hearing the story about how he got hunted down and captured, you know. Hi, Kodak.
So,
Kodak says he's pretty sure he puts out at least 500 watts of heat. Well, that's like this dude over here, Kodak. I think it must be a dude thing because he's a virtual stove, you know? That's ridiculous.
yeah. So, anyhow, I say we do have a very interesting life. We're comfortable in most ways, and there are some challenges with living the frugal life, but except when we're in summer production / exploration mode, we got a lot of free time and stuff. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago they were having some demonstrations at the Coots Sawgrass border crossing in Canada, and I was just talking to Eva, and then I think she said, well, how far is it?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Look it up.
Like-
It's like, yeah, it's about 300 miles. You know, 1-day trip. You know, let's go.
Yeah, I always wanted to see the border, and I saw the border. Yes, I am quite the huntress, Shane. I am a goddess. Goddesses can do that shit. Jean-Francois, yeah. He says I'd let myself get captured if she could run my lab.
Yeah.
It says something, Jean-Francois, that I tolerate what I call a lab, okay?
Yeah, that there's a lot of truth in that. But
Hi, honey bunny.
living the frugal life is not the easiest thing. Okay, honey bunny, you're here, so
Oh, you get to see the crystals that everybody else has seen 19 times now, honey bunny.
yeah.
So that dude, I call him Mr. Porcupine. And yeah. Though he could also be an anemone. But I call him Mr. Porcupine. That's Mr. P.
And
And this is a conglomerate that has some huge crystals in it. This large crystal here is bigger than 2 of his fingers put together. And his fingers are bigger than mine.
then
And there's one of my big boys coming up right now. That's a good size guy. He's about 9 inches across, 9 or 10 inches across.
about 12 inches across the little one.
Well, anyway, he's one of my nice big dudes.
Yeah.
Needs to be cleaned.
Looks like it was on calcite on the back.
Yeah.
It's got the bladed calcite texture there. We have been told by knowledgeable people that indicates it was in the boiling water part.
Honey Bunny says, got the motor tested. It has an internal short, so it's on its way to a nearby motor rewinder. And yeah, Honey Bunny, these are some excellent specimens, and I got a lot more this weekend. This weekend, I got some of the best specimens I have gotten so far. It is amazing how they turn up. They just come dropping right out of the biomat. It's fascinating.
Ouch. I'm gonna have to move that.
Did you step on him?
No, I hit him with my toe.
Brian says, when I see stuff like that, I think cave. Wait until you see one of the ones that I have got wrapped up right now, Brian. I'm going to try to get some good pictures when it's done, you know.
Yeah, that's not cave, that's not calcite.
Chris says it's typical of the mineralization in that area as far as I can tell, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
It is, but I'll tell you, Chris, I have not seen crystals like that anywhere else we've been. And Jean-Francois says, why is it I don't see Honey in the chat? Hi, Honey. I have no idea, Jean-Francois. I gave
She
up.
just showed up.
She just showed up.
Oh, you mean you do not observe Honey Bunny's comments? 'Cause there's one like,
Here, let's try that
put it
way.
under-
I don't know.
yeah, I have no clue. At some time, did you exclude her accidentally, perhaps?
I have no clue how it works.
There is a thing where you click the bars on the side where you can say, don't show me from this poster or something like that. I know that's a possibility. I have no
Kodak says, you folks are hiding all of the 3-pound nuggets.
I wish.
I wish. Oh, Jean-Francois reset the chat and now he sees her.
Okay. Yep.
Shane says, mine's been locking up on me where I have to get out and get back on.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Well, one thing I want to do this winter when I've got more time, people, is I want to figure out how to get us a live stream going on Rumble that works well.
Well, I also want a live stream where we can do like a Zoom meeting at the same time.
Yeah, we're going to
So
figure
like-
out how to do Zoom meetings.
People like, Chris and Rock Butcher and stuff will have technical things that would be useful and that sort of thing. Brian has got some of his tests that might be helpful. So, there's lots of things. By the way, Honey Bunny, we saw that herd of goats moving towards a new pile of feed today. They were all strung out in a line. It was
Honey Bunny
hilarious.
says she has an 8.72-pound nugget of hematite. Wow, I'd love one of those.
Little one, do you want to show them the deer from the front yard?
We should have it in this computer, I
Yeah.
think.
I'm pretty sure because I sent it to Randy. So it
Yeah.
has to be somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I got them right here.
Okay.
So, anyway, let's see if we can get this.
Phone. Hello? It was scam likely.
I'm trying to do something, dude. Please don't bother
Okay.
me right now.
I'm not bothering you.
Okay, these are deer in our front lawn. Now, people have wondered why the bird feed was going as fast as it's been going. And I think I figured out why the bird feed has been going as fast as it's been going.
That's
And
a
the
big
answer
bird.
is right there.
That's what
That's
winglet
a
birds, right?
4x4 buck, and the other guy next to him is a 3x3 that was hanging out with him. Right there in the front lawn. And at one point, they were eating the bushes at the coffee shop while cars were going up to the window at the coffee shop.
I was saying we need to put a grill with spikes on it on front of Bugs, and I can drive down the street and start driving up the street, and then be talking to Eva on the phone, and just the right time she can shoo them out in the road in front of me.
Yeah, I'm looking at them and I'm like, dinner. That's such a good looking dinner right there.
In Montana, they have something called a roadkill tag. If you run over a critter, you can call it in. It costs nothing. As long as you take it away and get it out of the way, it's free.
Honey Bunny says she's got 3 new goats. She doesn't know whose they are. They just all of a sudden showed up. And Geobum says, new to recreational panning in Michigan and love your no-nonsense content, especially regarding flower gold and black sands. Yep, Flower Gold Wizards is up in that area too, and he does an excellent channel.
Yeah, we visited him this spring. When
And yeah, Shane, it looks like dinner to me too, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, just saying.
I think
And yeah,
the dinners.
those are deer, Jean-Francois. Those are mule deer.
Yep. Those are
And-
Louise.
Brian says, Rudolph! Chris says, looks like the deer in my yard that are eating my pepper plants and strawberries. And Kodak says, in the 80s, a friend found a 10-pound nugget. They were working in Downey Vile, just in front of the coffee shop where 2 rivers came together.
Sweet.
Because of in town could only pan and a 10-pounder. And yeah, Venice meat. Just about. Honey Bunny says, around your area, you don't need any help. You have to duck them or you get hit by them. Shaggy says, yummy. And Jean-Francois says, roadkill not free. Body work is staying expensive. Well, Jean-Francois, he built a bumper on bugs.
It ain't the
That's
bumper that's gonna get
probably,
damaged.
yeah, let's put it this way. I think that bumper could probably run head first into an 18-wheeler, into a freaking
no.
Peterbilt.
No, that would fuck it. Well, it would at least fuck up the truck because the frame would probably.
Yeah.
But no, it's. I got 6-inch channel iron as my bumpers. That also allows me to mount things without worrying about it. But yeah, it ain't the bumper that would be the problem. It would be the grill and the radiator and the front of the engine would be the problem. Around here, you got to worry about elk too. They're much larger than a deer.
Shane says to quote The Rock, can you smell what I'm cooking?
And we did actually get hit by a deer about month and a half ago, something like that.
A couple of months ago now.
Yeah, a couple of months ago. Yeah, we were driving down the road, and one deer ran in front of us, another one ran into the back quarter panel of the van. Didn't do much damage, barely left a streak, you know.
Chris says they took out a full-size pig at speed with nothing but a butt smudge with a stock Bronco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Pigs
if
are
it was a
low enough
domestic
down.
pig.
No, that
Hi, Kenneth.
was it a feral pig or a Russian boar?
Kenneth Dursteller says, hi, everyone. Kenneth, if you have any mining questions, feel free to ask them. Honey says, I've got some 4.5 inch by 5/16 steel pipe I plan on filling with concrete for her truck.
That'll do a number on stuff. Oh, hey, Geobum, you say you're a geologist. What kind of geologist? There's lots of different kinds of geology. What is your specialty, or what do you generally do? We have a gentleman that's quite often here on the live stream. Goes by the name of Rock Butcher, and he's a professional field exploration geologist.
Shane says, buffalo are tough on trucks, too. I would love to test bugs against a buffalo.
I would.
Just a little one.
Fix it. How many people are watching right now?
22.
Okay.
And Honey Bunny says they have actual razorbacks and feral boars. Jean-Francois says he just returned his 2020 rented Subaru and switched to his late mom's Chevy Blazer, 1996.
That's a good one.
Cool.
It's okay.
And Chris says it was a big wild pig, crossbred and mean.
Yeah. Yeah, over there they got a lot of Russian boar, too, besides the feral pig. And they tend to be mean. In Texas, that's basically just feral pigs.
Peak Accounting says, great videos. Thanks for your work. Well, thank you
that
very
Rock
much,
Culture?
Peak Accounting. No.
Okay, that's the right side.
Kodak says Chris Giorgi got a pig in Mendocino County with an H&K 91. Fed the bar next night in Cotati, Sonoma County. Wow.
HK 91, huh? That'll do it. But anyhow, so
Honey Bunny says her trucks would flatten a buffalo, although without the future planned bumpers, they would be messed up too. Anyhow, back to mining.
yeah, next weekend we're planning on going back out there, and we'll see if we can get a little more information on that dump itself. Got a couple exploration things we can do, but
Chris
nothing
says half of
particular.
his went to feed the wolf pack from Dances with Wolves, and the rest went in the freezer.
I presume that means there's actually someone near him that had the tame wolves that they used in Dances with Wolves. Am I
We
correct?
have not released a video this week, Honey Bunny. We're going to very shortly. Kenneth Dursteller says he's not hearing any talking.
Everyone else can hear, can't they?
Yeah, that's my question, guys. Can you all hear?
Type in this thing. Type in something we can.
Guys, if you can all hear us, let me know. And if anyone has any suggestions for Kenneth as to what, Yes. And Shane says his buddy's Ford with well casing pipe and filled with concrete didn't fare too well. It was an F-50.
Yep. Somebody says I hear you, I think. Jeff,
Yeah.
maybe? Yeah.
Jeff says here too.
Yep. We may do a little more of a study on that dump itself to see if we can get a more quantitative measurement of where the crystal clusters, where the quartz is and stuff like that. In terms of exploration, not too sure what to do. We could walk that road from the lower Discovery cabin down towards Claim 5. See what that looks like, little one.
Yeah.
That's something we haven't done.
Shane says my buddy that had it was John Rivers Sr. had the wolf called Socks, and I would go out to his place and he'd play with me.
Uh-huh.
Jeff says no other messages have appeared lately. No, the dump, Honey Bunny, is simply a dozer bump. It's a dozer push.
Yeah, some guy took a little divot out of the hill with a dozer and pushed it up into a dump.
The rail was not connected with other rail segments. If you were thinking about the rail we were discussing earlier, Brian, we do have rail at another location, and it doesn't seem to be connected to anything either.
Yeah, I would agree. If the rail was...
Oh, good. Kenneth can hear. And Kenneth, if you have any questions about mining or prospecting, feel free to ask.
Yeah,
Kodak wants to know if anybody's seeing any color. And Shaggy says, what's needed for a coal mine?
Ooh. First of all,
Well,
coal is not a locatable mineral. It's a leasable mineral. So you'd have to lease it from the federal government. It has a number of idiosyncrasies in how you would mine it. Typically, economically viable coal is in a seam, which would be a layer, various thicknesses.
Well,
Generally, that's why you see coal mines being very short, because all they want to do is take out the seam.
the problem with that concept, Honey Bunny, of them skimming the top, what we think was actually happening here is they wanted to get a look at bedrock or structure, so they bought in a dozer and kind of went,
They kind of scraped down.
They scraped down.
Yeah,
There's no sign that they were storing or stockpiling this.
Yeah.
This was more like,
The dump appears about the same size as the divot. Yeah.
Kenneth says he's been doing it for forever, 70 years. That's cool.
Yeah.
We haven't been doing it quite that long yet. Do you do placer, Kenneth, or do you do hard rock?
He's been doing it 70 years. Either he started really young or he's even older than I am.
Yeah.
So, I can't.
Shaggy said the feds own all the coal in the ground under your property. Yeah, they probably do.
Yeah.
Even if your property has mineral rights, it won't have coal or oil rights. Those belong to the feds.
No, you can have coal and oil rights under private property. Yes.
Yeah, but it's not a
If
common
they had
thing.
to have been transferred at the time that it was privatized, which it was a long time ago, yeah, it can be there.
Yeah, you have to double check on that though, Shaggy, because generally the feds, in addition to getting their hands on a whole bunch of land, which was unconstitutional, also got their hands on the oil, coal, and gas and fun things like that, which is also unconstitutional. Kenneth says he's done it all. Well, cool. Then lay knowledge on us as well, because we're all learning together around here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honey, I don't think they considered crystals good stuff. And yeah, I know. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, when I was told that I can keep all the crystals I could find because nobody cares about them, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But in their time and place, the stuff that we have been finding in terms of quartz that is going in the tank here never would have been considered ore anyway. It wasn't even low grade. It would not have made the grade. David Villa says 83 and proud of it. Kenneth says he's been doing dredges for over 60 years.
Been doing what?
Dredges.
Sweet.
He did some dredging up in the Middle Fork of the Boise several years ago.
Yeah, standard little recreational size, a 6-inch dredge. I have a feeling that if you've been dredging for that long, you might have been using actual real dredges too.
Jean-Francois, all governments are self-legalizing crime syndicates. That's one of the definitions of a government.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I know, honey. That's the way I feel about the crystals. They found zero value in these crystals. And that doesn't surprise me because the area was last worked in like the turn of the 20th century. So like 1900, 1910, etc. People were not interested in crystal clusters, you know?
Oh, I wish I could read stuff.
Kodak says, have you heard about West Virginia getting flooded from nearby coal mines? Massive amounts of metals and bacteria poisoning local well water and flooding homes and yards. That would not surprise me.
Is this something that just suddenly happened, or is that just from...
Kodak said it's from filling mines with water to get methane. Well, that makes sense. Shaggy, yeah, if the feds can break the law, they have no laws. Well, actually, it's more like the feds believe that the laws as written and passed were not to be applied to them. They're used as a cudgel to
It's just
keep
kind of a
everyone else.
concept paper.
Honey, according to the geology of the area, what was going on is a lot of the quartz that was deposited and broke through the various layers of bedrock formed voids. And yes, the geology thing says that, you know, these voids grew crystals, but they were not considered a commercial thing. They were more considered a nuisance.
It's pretty low-grade gold ore. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice if we had those with naturally occurring gold on it like that one guy had.
Oh, yeah.
That would be something.
Chris says if you had optical calcite or optically clear quartz, you'd have something valuable in the past. Well, funny enough, Chris, the only indication we've seen in the local records about that being a case was not listed anywhere for crystals. Everybody was talking about our sapphire bars because the sapphires had been completely ignored and considered useless for forever. They were just sitting around. And then people discovered, long about World War II or something, there's a lot of optical quality sapphire around here, and there is some.
It's not just optical quality. There was a sudden huge demand for sapphire, for bearings and such, for
all of a sudden,
etc.
all of a sudden they went from nobody really caring about the sapphires at all, despite people making concerted efforts to market them commercially as a gem show, you know, a gemstone of choice for discriminating ladies, etc. all of a sudden, when they had a technical application,
Oh, yeah.
everybody wanted them. The crystals I'm finding, the only ones that are optical grade are extremely small.
Oh.
Well, it would have to, Honey Bunny, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. Equal to or higher in altitude than where we found them, that would be a long, long time ago because that mountain ain't shrunk all that much. Equal to, we have found nothing anywhere close to these kind of crystal formations elsewhere on the shell, and believe me, I am looking for them. Now, down below, there are claims where there are crystal clusters in the entire area, you know.
Well,
So,
the whole situation in Montana with the valuable metallic minerals has a lot to do with intrusive, magma intrusions hither, thither, and yon. Biggest of
Chris
which
says
is
the
one
optical
pathway.
quality quartz was used for radio crystals. Yeah, it was, but I have never seen radio crystals as tiny as my optical quality crystals. I do have optical quality crystals, but they're extremely small. The older crystals, the larger crystals from wherever this crystal garden was, lacked that clarity. Jean-Francois says things will change with SCOTUS getting rid of the Chevron deference document. I hope so.
One can hope.
They struck down the interpretations into regulations power of government agencies. That's true, Jean-Francois, but nothing's got more sheer inertia than a government. So,
We actually ran into a guy today that used to work for the Forest Service, and when we mentioned it was our opinion that the environmentalists took it over years ago, he said, "Yeah, I'd never work for him again."
oh, honey, we're working on matting and plotting claims, but if we're too busy doing research, we can't do research at this time of the year because our mining season is short enough
Yeah.
that we can't waste time doing deep research during our short season.
Now, Top of the Hill will probably be open another month
Maybe.
to 3 months. It all
Maybe.
just depends on when it snows.
I mean, judging by some of the weather records I've seen from the area, they've had first snow up there as early as Labor Day, and they've had, they have had snow up there as late as the middle of July.
Yeah, but the question is,
Yeah.
does it stick? It doesn't
Well,
matter.
that's the thing, honey bunny. I mean, believe me, and plus, a lot of our research resources, like our State History Museum that has a pile of important records,
It's currently closed
is closed.
for another year or so. But yeah,
We're doing, we have extensive, I've done a lot of survey work on the ground up there.
well,
And I can tell you to the number how many pieces of quartz float we have found and where we have found them other than where we're currently working, which is like,
well, another problem right now is until I get this eye fixed up some, it's going to be very difficult for me to do research.
no, Dave, we didn't get snow up there this past weekend. We got a heavy frost.
Yeah.
Chris, it's supposed to open early next year. So far, we haven't seen an update. And yes, I GPS everything.
What's going to open? What? Where?
The library,
the museum.
the museum.
Oh.
Dave says the Tobacco Root Mountain got a foot last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
When so here's what I have to do to read anything. That's I can read your comments.
Yeah,
This
well,
way.
you're blocking your entire view.
So you get an idea how much of a annoyance this is.
Kodak says global cooling. The ice ages are coming back after we get hit by a comet.
Yeah.
Well, Leonard Nimoy said back in the 1980s that we were headed for an ice age. So that was right after he said that we were heading for a global warming. Jeff says, I worked at a golf course that had planted trees into December. I like late falls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this weekend when we were sorting through that dump, quite a lot of the time, I'd break a rock and then hold it over to Eva for her to identify, is that calcite quartz, massive quartz, or what, you know? So I'd know where to throw it. Generally, the sugar quartz, that's easy to ID. The wall rock is easy to ID. Veined wall rock is usually pretty easy to ID. But yeah.
Kodak says, block our view of Keith. It's okay.
Yep. So, anyhow, that's kind of it. We're testing a number of things at the mill.
And I have a question. Chris says you can't tell by taste, Keith.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't normally taste things. Geobum says, Milankovic cycles. We should be entering an ice age. Yeah. We should be entering an ice age. We probably are.
Well, it's so funny, too, that they don't, they start with a conclusion and then work the algorithms to find it. But I remember one in particular, I believe in the Scientific American in the 70s, I think it was, where some group of atmospheric scientists had looked at the theoretical warming caused by carbon dioxide, and they said, well, we should have seen something by now, but we don't. And then they took a look at the cooling effect of the sulfur dioxide aerosols.
Chris says we're still in an ice age, and Kodak says, well, at least y'all can't see me.
Yeah. And so their conclusion was basically that while the CO2 had a warming effect, the sulfur dioxide aerosols had a cooling effect that was roughly a complete offset. The problem was the sulfur dioxide aerosols are really relatively short-lived, whereas the CO2 is much longer-lived. And therefore, if you suddenly clean up all your fossil fuel power plants to stop the sulfur emissions, you're going to cause global warming.
Chris says definition of an ice age is a period of time in which the poles have ice cover. That's been going on quite a while then.
Yeah.
If anybody has any good tips on polishing calcite.
I also got to ask about hard facing too.
This guy right here is an example of one of the very nice calcite crystals I've been finding around here. Nice and flashy and pretty and all that. And I want to, shape them and polish them a little bit. Geobum says he mapped ice levels in Antarctica. Wow, that must have been cool.
Yeah.
And Jean-Francois said the whole hockey stick charade rests mostly on data from only one or two trees. Well, it makes perfect sense.
Wouldn't be surprising. By the way, now we have more people watching. I suspect that our hard alloy 140 hard facing is not as hard as my old Studi 21 hard facing. Anyone watching have a recommendation on a very durable hard facing to go into the impact mill? Just curious on that, because it seems to me the Studi 21 lasted quite a bit longer than the...
Jean-Francois says the magnetic pole has been moving super fast lately. I think it's out of Canada and into Russia.
Wow, that would be fast.
Great. We can blame that on Putin, too.
He damn stole that Putin. He's so sneaky.
Chris says standard soft stone lapidary practices work on calcite. Thank you, Chris. Because I don't really want to disturb them. I've got some nice looking dudes. I don't really want to disturb them. I just want to give them a different shape. Dave Vanderwall says aluminum powder and a rock tumbler. As soon as I get a rock tumbler, I can try that. Bunny says I always used E110 rod for hard facing in the past.
What's the manufacturer for E110?
Chris says you need both impact and abrasion resistant hard facing.
Yep.
And Honey says Putin stole the North Pole. I bet he did.
Honey Bunny, what was the manufacturer of that E110? And how durable was it under the most extreme conditions you subjected it to? Because this Hardalloy
Dave
140.
says Keith is don't know. He doesn't know the brand, but it's a 160 hard face rod. Is what he uses.
160.
John Francois says in multiply all, variation used to be about 15 degrees to the left, but it's now getting near to zero, if he's not mistaken. Honey says she doesn't know. She's been shopping around for some recently and haven't found any at a good price.
Yeah, you're not going to find some at a good price, I don't think. If you find out any information for exceptionally durable hard facing, I'd appreciate if you'd pass that along. Because the guy at the local distributor didn't seem terribly knowledgeable, and I says, they use this stuff here. They do use it on everything, you know. And so it seems to me it lasts like maybe half as well or less than the Studio 21.
Maybe if we found a way to coat it with garnet powder.
Nah, garnet's just shattered.
I was teasing. Honey said in the old days we got it from a company no longer in business, Cleveland Iron and Steel.
Cleveland, huh? Yeah, it's
Honey says night tried the surface. David Villa says good show, gotta run, good night. Chris says nexawell.com, our products, H70 or similar.
should be able to click on that.
Yeah, I don't want to.
No,
Are you sure you want to leave YouTube? The link.
no, I don't. It used to
Yeah.
be you could click on
I will deal with it later.
it. Okay.
Before believing what we are told, just remember us gray-haired. What the weather has been seems to me the summers and the evening are the same as winter, with winter cooler in summer and warmer in winter, and this is in Minnesota.
Nexawell, what?
Yeah, Nexawell.com, our products. I'm doing it right now. Don't worry about it. Our products.
Oh, yeah, it's frustrating because it'd be nice if they'd give like a Burnell or a Rockwell hardness or something like that. That doesn't
Hard
appear
facing electrodes, mild steel electrodes.
facing electrodes.
Yeah. Hard 1, hard 2, hard 3, hard 3 LH.
Just go ahead and keep that tab there, and I'll look at it when I get back. When we're done with the thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, because yeah, it could last twice as long. I mean, right now, the Apex wear plates, the hard facing, is wearing to the point of spot failure in about 800 or 900 pounds of rock. So we have to do an Apex change in the middle of a tank. You know,
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous at the moment.
that's pretty undesirable.
Chris says there's half a dozen or so manufacturers of appropriate electrodes. Chris, if you could drop those links into an email and send them to me so that I can deal with it
Or
later.
send them to me.
Or send them to him, I mean. I'm going to end up going.
Is there any comparison, I wonder?
Chris says the hardness is going to change based on actual use. Kodak says numbering and lettering for welding or industry labels, not necessarily brands. Use a hammer gun to work harden the hard facing.
Well,
And Honey Bunny says the Nexa is listed as high manganese, so it should be pretty hard. Where did those white crystals come from, Mr. Virtue? They came from our current location, top of the hill.
yeah, top of the hill dozer dump.
Right here in Montana, from a freaking dump.
Yeah. And they've got gold in them. Not much, but gold.
Honey Bunny says, in theory, you could dip regular rods in a mix of manganese dioxide. Chris, I can't click on any links that are in the chat right now because it messes up the YouTube
OBS.
thing.
Yeah.
So,
OBS has problems.
Honey says, in theory, you could dip regular rods in a mix of manganese dioxide, carbon black, and sodium silicate and get a really hard surface, but one might have to dinker with it to figure out the best mix.
I prefer somebody else dinkering. You know? I've got enough dinkering to do.
Yeah, if anybody wants to send anything to us in terms of links for anything, please use his email to do it.
Yeah.
Chris says a needle scaler is a good way to peen the surface before running.
I know what you're talking about, Chris. She doesn't, but I do.
And Mr. Virtue, I have zillions of glorious, gorgeous crystals to show off.
Can just regular hammering do a good enough job, or do you need to do so much? You'd have to have like a, what do you call it? Oh, like an air chisel type gun with a flat thing or something. I mean, how much peening do you need to start with?
So peening is an actual word.
Oh yeah. You've heard of a ball peen hammer?
Yeah.
The peen is the flat side. The round one is the ball side.
A needle scaler is a great way to work harden a surface, according to Honey.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris says you'd wear your arm out before you'd peened it sufficiently.
Okay. Just curious on that, because I know Lauren has a needle scaler. I don't think, but I do think they have a an air chisel.
Kodak says hammering after cooled for work hardening, not when hot to warm.
Got it. Yeah, I could use a what do you call it? An air chisel with a flat tool.
Okay.
That would also. And the main thing is you need a lot of blows, and that's hard to do manually.
Yeah,
Some that does
you could be doing that. I'm not
many
going to
per
be doing
second
that.
comes in handy.
I'm not going to be doing that. That'll be your job.
I never peened the Studi 21.
Kodak says with an air hammer, needle, etc., at least 30 to 60 per inch.
Yeah.
Well, definitely worth trying. I mean,
Yeah, I never did it before, but
Chris says peening is essentially hammering a surface to harden or mushroom it. Okay.
yeah.
Well, like I said, you can do it. I'm not even going to try. Not my thing. It is my job to do the hard facing. It's your job to figure out how to make it work. Kodak says 30 to 60 per inch, manually 10 plus minutes.
Okay.
Seconds. Kodak corrected himself 2 seconds.
Okay. I'll be back in a minute, little one. Why don't you take over? Grace them with your dubious countenance.
Well, anyway, guys, I still cannot believe that anybody could look at these glorious, exuberant crystals and not want them. But yeah, apparently they were so worthless back in the turn of the 20th century that they ended up in a dump. And currently, I have been having a thrilling time cleaning them up. We've given several to the chiropractor. We gave a couple to the eye doctor. We gave a couple away today to the dude that runs a country store that's on the way back from top of the hill. So yeah.
He provided us with brake fluid.
He provided us with brake fluid, and so we did. Honey Bunny, by the way, says nickel, zinc, cadmium, silver, phosphorus, manganese, and cobalt can all be gotten from batteries from metallurgy. And yeah, Honey Bunny, crystals are delightful. I am enjoying cleaning them. I'm enjoying collecting them. I'm enjoying giving a few away. But, I'm actually looking at the next time our local mineral society has a show, maybe getting a little table and seeing about selling some of these beauties, because there are some really nice specimens here. I have been very, very happy with them. And in other random news, apparently, once again, in some town in China that shall remain nameless, the zoo got in trouble because they were passing off a couple of painted dogs as pandas. Now, mind you, this is the second time that this has made the news in China. It was absolutely ridiculous. Apparently, they're taking chow chows and other forms of white dog, and they're painting them panda stripes and, panda coloration, and figuring that people looking at them from far away may not notice that they're dogs instead of pandas. That says something about what they think of the educational level or the intelligence level of your average zoo goer. But it was just one of those bizarre stories, right up there with the whole things of they're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats. That was another bizarre story. And funny enough, I was telling the other half there, I was telling Professor Hardrock, when I was a kid in the 70s in Boston, the worst insult that you could pay to a Jamaican or a Dominican was to call them a Haitian. The second worst insult you could pay to an African person, other than calling them an African American, was to call them a Haitian. So yeah, people always had a problem with those. Jean-Francois, I think if they had polar bears, they probably would have. But yeah, it was bizarre. There's a picture of this dog. It was a chow. Okay, I recognize chow chows when I see them. It was a chow. Panda colors. No wonder they got in trouble. Go figure. Just, absolutely ridiculous. Honey, so far I have not used CLR on these ones. These ones I used iron out on. We're picking up some oxalic acid this week, and yeah, the only thing they teach there is thought was Xi Jinping. They don't know anything but communism. That's true, but you would think they'd recognize a panda when they saw one. But apparently they believe people won't recognize pandas when they see them. Go figure.
Yep.
Quite bizarre. Many, many bizarre things out there, but that one was just one of those headlines you don't expect to see.
Not on your bingo card, huh?
Not on my bingo card for this year, Yeah, apparently everything is fake in China. But that was just definitely not on my bingo card for this year. But then again, many, many things are not on my bingo card. And Chris says citric and oxalic should do the trick cleaning those up. Yeah, I'm going to do a few extra things on a couple of them. Some of them, the biggest problem I have on some of these little dudes, bigger dudes, is the biologics. Because there are some quartz-loving, and I mean quartz-loving, molds, lichens, mosses up there. that only grow on the quartz. They don't grow on anything else. I can spot a piece of quartz float from 8 feet away just based on the kind of biologics that decided to inhabit it and grow on it. The problem is, so far, the CLR had no real effect on biologics. And the iron out had no effect on the biologics. Haven't tried phosphoric acid yet. Haven't tried anything else yet. Because it doesn't show very well on this one, but if you take a look at that little hole in the back there, you see how it's kind of blackish brown in there? That black stuff does not like to go away. And I've been going at these buggers with toothbrushes and with dental picks and a few other little things here.
You tried any lye?
I have not tried lye yet. I have been very, very careful to date. And yeah, Chris, I'm familiar with citric acid. I just haven't tried it yet. What I really need right now, I actually have some citric acid somewhere, I believe. What I really need to find is something that goes after that black lichen that has affixed itself to these crystals and does not want to go away. I don't necessarily mind it. I mean, I have been removing a good portion of it, but I would like to turn out a couple of crystals that are beautifully, perfectly white in all regards, you know. So, well, another thing to try. Honey says that sulfuric acid will destroy organics. Got to try that one. Chris says phosphoric acid can be found in any hardware store as a concrete cleaner. Haven't tried it yet, but yeah. Kodak says uses an ultrasonic cleaner for lots of cleaning small parts. Yes, Chris, I'm positive that it's lichen and not MnO2. Because when I looked at it under the loop, when I picked these guys up, and it was still alive. Well, some of it was still alive, some of it was dead. When I look at it under the loop, it is most definitely an organic, and then I confirmed that by looking at some of it under the microscope. Most definitely an organic, not a metallic, not a mineral. So, we're there. And yeah, I've got a lot of things that I want to try. There's a lot of things that I've got on my list of stuff. Yeah, honey bunny, what I saw under my scope and under my loop was not, it was organic. It's an interesting little thing. As a matter of fact, I think that I don't know why it is the way it is. But I also have a lot of trouble with the roots that try to eat these guys alive, because these guys come out of the biomat layer there. So they usually come out covered with a very fine, extremely dense net of extremely fine roots. They're a pain in the ass to get off. Kodak says $75 to $200 size and more. I have a Chinese made. Works good. How long's the question? Yeah. Chris says piranha solution will remove it for sure. H2SO4 plus H2O2. Well, I know that it is organic, honey bunny. I've taken it off with the darn with my dental picks and put it under the dang microscope. There is nothing non-organic about this stuff. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple of different types of moss, 3 different types of lichen, and the roots that are attracted to this quartz. It's really funny. Huh. That's interesting, Jean-Francois. I've got some citric acid that I need to play with anyway. But my biggest goal is not necessarily to get these perfectly clean. I'm going to be doing experiments on some of them where I only attack the organics in some places so that I can leave some that are some areas that still have that black and that organic scale on them, and other areas, well, can't even call it scale. It does come off with a brush. The problem is a lot of the crystal formations on these crystals are fragile enough that if I go after them with a seriously stiff brush, I will break crystals, and I'm trying not to do that. So what I want to do is try to remove that or soften it up enough to get it off with a softer brush, only in certain areas without damaging the crystals. Yeah,
Shows in this.
yeah, I think we showed that. In case you guys haven't seen it yet or missed it last week, that is a nice piece of copper carbonate that Lauren gave me that comes from his newest project. Really cool.
Oh, I'm getting tired.
Wow, that's nice, Jean-Francois. I don't have to passivate stainless steel very often, so I know that manganese gems exist. I have not found any. I will say that I found a couple of smoky pieces that I have since given away here, but these particular smokies were silvery gray. They were not your standard brown smoky or your they weren't your standard brown smoky. They were pretty silvery, pale silvery gray. Very nice. And yeah, honey bunny, that is a really nice piece of copper carbonate. Wait until you see some of the other specimens that found their way home from up there. It was a situation of so many rocks, so few buckets. Don't I wish? Anyway, I'm going to put him back on camera, and we're probably going to be winding it up shortly because he's tired. But I will keep y'all posted on what happens with my crystal. Since I'm the only person.
Did you ask Chris about that white stuff from the nitric acid digestion?
No, I did not.
Okay.
And I don't have a picture of it either. So.
By the way, I'm just kind of curiosity. We've been out in the hills for a few days. What's the price of gold and silver right now? Yeah, I'm a little bit tired. For some recovering from the shingles, that was a pretty vigorous workout this weekend. The muscles that are tending to spasm up a little bit are some of the same ones you used to swing a sledgehammer. So it was kind of tiring. Not too bad, not excruciating or anything like that. But yeah, it was a bit of a workout. Yeah, I heard Friday that like gold was 26.30 or something like that. Again, the computer's doing something there, so I don't want to.
No, do not
do
touch
anything.
I will. Good Lord.
I'm not sure what
Find the price and type it in for him.
About 25.80 for gold, it says. Oh, yeah. Muscle spasms. Yeah, I'm taking magnesium and potassium, Jean-Francois. In this particular case, it's the shingles, and one of the symptoms can be muscle spasms and muscle aches. It's right there where the nerves that are affected did. You know, it's just for an old geezer. That one weekend we were up there helping Lauren. That was good that I wasn't trying to work too hard. As you noticed from the video, with seeing my feet. I was taking naps on a regular basis and such, and I think that helped out. the shingles was, from what I can tell from other people, kind of unusually mild and unusually short-lived. Step away from the... I can't see anything if I don't. That's the problem. You know? I can't read a darn thing
I'm cutting a
from
pine.
here.
I'm trying to do 3 things at once here.
Well, I know, but I would suggest that we might want to finish this before doing anything else.
Spot gold on Kitco is 26.60.
2660. Wow. Pretty good.
Chris says HF or F salts can be used to remove oxides, but that's obviously a toxicity concern.
No kidding.
Kodak says step away from the computer. Mr. Rochu says fiat currency is showing its ugly head.
Agreed.
Honey says if you find rhodium, you'll be in the real money. Jean-Francois says he saw on YouTube silver hasn't gone up as much as gold, but it's about to soar. They've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah.
Kodak says I must have the shingles. I'm spazzing frequently. Hi, Dean. Howdy, guys. Jean-Francois, no, it's not worth it to take the shingles vax. It is not a vaccine. It's an inoculation. It does not prevent the shingles. It may lessen the severity or shorten the duration thereof. And Honey says leaning in and squinting is the geezer way. And Kodak
when you
says
have an
don't
injured eye.
touch. And Jean-Francois says shingles are terrible sometimes.
Yeah, I would agree that that's the reports.
Yeah, I'm
In that
sorry,
case, it
guys.
wasn't
I
too
am
bad.
trying to get some stuff done around here. So, you know.
Yeah, I say I've had what I consider to be an unusually mild case.
Of course.
So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, all things considered. Yeah, I would avoid it myself. Do what you can to keep your immune system running at maximum efficiency. If you've had smallpox,
No, if
you know,
you've had
not
chicken pox.
chickenpox. I've been back in the old days when they actually did. Yeah, yeah. Some people.
Yeah, Jean-Francois
Yeah, really
could be
bad.
bad. What I was worried about with him was it getting in his eyes, because it can cause blindness, and he has exactly one working eye. Well, it's no longer working properly, but at least it's still there.
Yeah, it's injured.
And Kodak says, and life is a beach and gravity sucks. Absolutely.
By the way, how's the actual rash doing now?
Just a couple of scabs left. There's nothing else there.
Yeah, it feels like it's almost gone.
Yeah, it's basically gone. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
I'm not worried about it. I'm just curious. Anyhow, does anyone have any subjects, questions, or anything else at this point before we call it a night? And say we got lots of.
Yes,
Research going
Jean-Francois, shingles is a form of herpes.
Yep.
It's the zoster. Chickenpox is herpes varicella. Cold sores and the genital variety are simplex 1 and 2. And shingles is herpes zoster. Once you have had a herpes, they never go away.
Yeah, it's basically a reappearance of the chickenpox virus that's been hiding in your body for a while. My theory is that I strained my back pretty hard the weekend beforehand, and then a couple days later I started getting. I think maybe I irritated the nerve roots, and that's what set it off. But that's pure speculation. Okay, Chris wants us to call him up this week.
Okay.
Okay, Chris, I appreciate all the help as usual. Appreciate everyone showing up.
Yeah. The
Yes.
left eye is the bad one. Just how would you build a self-mining placer machine?
A self-mining placer machine? Well, I'd go with one of the continuous miners and just have it feeding onto a conveyor. I mean, depending upon the thickness of the deposit and the,
Yeah, the virus hides in the myelin sheath.
you know,
Tony says happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.
okay. We'll see if we jumped it or not. But anyhow, you got all kinds of continuous miners from underground, surface, things like that.
Kodak says later all.
Yep. I hope Geo, whatever his name was, had a good time. GeoBum.
Good night,
Had a good
everybody.
time. So take care, everybody. See you next week.
Okay.